Alright, we're back with another Lantern control game, kind of showcasing how Lantern can really crush glass cannon decks. Ones that are very reliant on kind of a key combo, kind of focusing on how our hand disruption can disrupt that. So we open up a one lander here that has stirrings plus the full lock and bridge. I think this is a snap keep. We'll put the extra bell to the bottom and see what we're up against. We open on plains and they suspend a Lotus Bloom. Probably either, based on plains and Lotus Bloom, it's either going to be the Tameshi combo or Ad Nauseum. In this instance, it turns out to be Ad Nauseum. So we'll see how we can do. Like we always do when we have one land, or kind of just in general, we're going to run out a lantern, kind of hoping to find that second land or use stirrings for it. And we see another lantern on top. Now at this point we're seeing Gemstone Mine, Seachrome Coast, so we're pretty certain that it's Ad Nauseum. And I actually elect to take a turn, kind of go down a land here, as I really want the Inquisition to have some input into what's in their hand, as that's going to be very important in this matchup. So I could stirrings for the second land here, but then I don't get any information on their hand, so I think it's better to just progress the lock here, use ancient stirrings to get a land next turn, and then play the Inquisition. And yeah, so they'll tick Lotus Bloom down. Still got one more turn. They play out an Odawara here, which is pretty nice. We don't have to worry about it bouncing something later, although something like Bridge isn't really important in this matchup. And they play a Phyrexian Unlife, kind of implying that by next turn they're going to have something to go off with. And yeah, so we're untap. Like said, we're going to use the Ancient Stirrings to get a second land that we can use with the Inquisition, as kind of we really want to have that hand information. We do have to take a courtyard here. The Surgicals would be quite nice to exile something at some point, but there's nothing in there right now, so not as useful. And we Inquisition, and they elect to just concede here. So they had a pretty fragile draw. And sorry, we'll skip forward. Yeah, likely they were on something pretty fragile, likely playing either have Thoracle or the seize the spoils of the vault card that lets them dig, and something that Inquisition would hit that they didn't want us to see. So quick game, just a well-timed hand disruption and fast lock can get there. I'm not going to go over sideboarding for this game. I think I made a couple errors. Generally against Ad Nauseum, you can take out things like bridges and then bring in a couple Welding Jar. You bring in like Life from the Loam, Spell Skite, kind of things like that to fight against them. Yeah, I just made a couple errors sideboarding, so I'm not going to show it, but we open up quite a nice hand here. We got Disruption, Lantern, Saga can put pressure on them. They again go for the early Lotus Bloom, so kind of just something to be aware of down the line. And here we draw a Needle. We're going to play the Lantern out. I think I place a lot of value on having information when I'm playing, so I think a lot of people would run out the Thoughtseize. My playstyle is generally get Lantern down as soon as possible, and then follow it up with the hand disruption after. I just like knowing the couple cards here and being able to construct a perfect game plan instead of kind of constructing my game plan and then potentially being blown out by a couple blind draws. Especially against decks playing like lots of sleight of hand or preordain. They can maybe see 4 or 5 cards blind before I'm able to get a Lantern down, and I really don't want that to happen. So we're gonna run out the Stirrings here, hoping kind of for a Codex Shredder. Unfortunately, we don't no Shredders, but we just take a Saga here in order to. This is going to be a lot of fast, kind of trying to put pressure on them quickly. So I don't think Spellskite is super useful for that. And we're just going to play a Pithing Needle on their Odawara, kind of one of their few ways that they can interact with us that we saw at least game 1. So we see an Ad Naus on top. They should be hopefully a turn away from comboing, and they did draw the Ad Naus. So at this point, it's going to kind of be, can we put enough pressure on them while still developing our lock? Surgical extraction on top is very nice, and we're going to Thoughtseize here, and they're going to pact it. So this obviously means that they have something in hand that they really want to protect. Hopefully we can get it out at some point, but and it also good. Pact is going to use a lot of their mana on the next turn, which should slow them down enough that we're able to interact somewhat. They also, at this point, I'm not sure if they have Angel's Grace in hand or if they're planning on paying for it, and they elect to pay for it. So I think that's kind of, I guess they're either holding Angel's Grace or they don't have it in hand. And at this point, we're kind of going to be locking them off as much as we can. We draw Surgical, which if we hit, kind of we're looking for Ad Naus or Thassa's Oracle or something like that we can hit with it. But we just grab a Shredder here to finish the lockout, and then we're gonna make one construct, and then we don't really need a second Surgical. One is good enough here, and they don't have much in their graveyard that we care about, and we're just gonna take another lock piece. Codex Shredder here. As you know, the difference between 1 and 2 mill rocks in Lantern is like super important. A lock with 2 mill rocks is like very strong, very unlikely to be drawn out of, but just 1 rock, definitely things can still get through. So they sleight of hand. Again, this is just going to be cantrips. We are going to be able to put a pretty fast clock on them with our constructs. We're actually on like a 2-turn clock here if they don't have any answers, and we do have Thoughtseize on top, which is going to let us take any answer they may have. Again, we're going to get a Shredder, and then we're going to Thoughtseize them. Sorry, we Surgical Pact first because we don't want them using another Pact on Thoughtseize. Also gives us a chance to look at what else they can have. And we see they have Angel's Grace and Ad Nauseum, and Thoracle appears is their like win con off it, of course. So they do need to get up to a lot of mana in order to hit that, but they also don't have many. They don't really have any answers to our creatures. I guess Phyrexian Unlife can kind of work, and they do have an Angel's Grace in hand, but we're not too worried about that. We'll still kill them anyway. And so we elect to Thoughtseize here, and of course we take the Ad Nauseum. Even just drawing like 5 or 10 cards can set them up pretty well for a later turn. Definitely a slower build of Ad Nauseum, less like Pentad prisms and stuff. Although I guess Thoracle plus Spoils of the Vault and Angel's Grace can be pretty close. So definitely a different direction. Here they're totally dead. We're just gonna play constructs. Important, I am gonna play the Codex Shredder this turn. There's no reason why you wouldn't, but just getting them both up to 7/7s and forcing the use of the Angel's Grace here just to survive. And yeah, like I said, you know, one well-timed Thoughtseize can totally dismantle a deck like this. And yeah, Thoughtseize, Lantern, and Shredder can totally dismantle something like Ad Nauseum. Doesn't see as much play as it used to, but I think this principle also applies to decks like Belcher that are very glass cannony, all in on one strategy, and that was pretty quick. So definitely a nice matchup. Hand disruption, kind of just again showing the importance of it and how easy these glass cannon matchups are.